Hello, everyone, and welcome to Social Talk Live, hashtag Social Talk Live. We are so excited to be here with you today, where we like to wear wigs and hats and have a little fun on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, what is that all about? People ask us, what's the deal with the wigs and the hats? And we're like, we don't know.
Why not? Why not? Let's just have some fun. So great. We are going to be talking about 5 ways to get new clients as a social media manager. And we are probably going to give you lots more than 5 ways, but we are definitely going to kind of outline 5 ways. And feel free to tell a little bird. The way we work our Social Talk Live sessions is we talk for about half an hour, then we dive into questions and have people jump in and tell us about their experiences for the last 15 minutes, and we are recording. So, yes. So let's dive in. So I'd like to hear actually, how many of you guys are social media managers? Or kind of doing freelance? I mean, the thing is, we talk mostly about social media managers, but really these kind of apply to any freelancing type of job. So yeah, awesome. You guys are HV Graphics is Janine V. You guys are freelancers. Awesome. Alaska Tracy's a freelancer. Consultant. Jenny is a consultant. Awesome. So cool. Great. Good stuff. Nick. Let me see. Nikki is also a VA. Very cool. Awesome.
For social media managers. That's very handy. I can tell you that. Yeah. I bet you have more work than you know what to do with. And if you don't, maybe we have a few tips that can help you today. And isn't it nice that we have such a nice group of people that are in the industry all under this one umbrella? So I'm glad you guys all found this today. That's awesome. We got some cool things.
Yeah. So let's just kick it off with our first tip. Let's just get right into it. I don't like to mess around.
All right. Well, we have, I'll go ahead and start with my first tip because this one is the hardest for me. Okay. It's probably the best tip to do, and it's the hardest for me. And that is to attend live networking events and talk to real people. Yeah. Right. That's the hardest one for me. And
yeah. So that one is the easiest for me.
That's why we make a good partnership, huh?
I know. So definitely that is how I started my business, is just going to lots of networking events. I really polished my 30-second commercial. At the end, usually at networking events, you get to stand up, give your little commercial. Maybe you get 30 seconds, maybe you get 60 seconds. But I really kind of dove into some pain points that a lot of those business owners had. And I said, if you are struggling with your social media, if you don't know how to make it work for you, then I can help. And, I've gotten great results, whatever, that I don't have my 30-second commercial honed in, but really you kind of start out with pain points for them. You don't just say, I do this, this, and this. Although a lot of times, sometimes I would just tell people what I did and they're like, oh, I need to talk to you. So I found that just by going to really, focused events, not just every single event. I would really target the networking events I would go to. Just at the end, we'd get, 30 seconds to give our commercial. A lot of times what I did is I would offer the group some free training. I would say, you know what, if you guys want to know some 5 top tips for business owners on how to make Facebook work, I can present that to you. And then at the end, I would have some offer that they could get some consulting with me. Maybe it was just even a free 15-minute consultation that would then develop into, into work.
Right. And like Bonnie said here, is that she built her credibility with 2 chambers and 3 women's networks. And we need to make this point clearly. We're talking about live local events or live regional events that are near you. We're not necessarily talking about big conferences or industry conferences, even though that could be a great way for you to find clients. But for this particular tip, it's that live networking, just like a chamber event or a women's network event. That's exactly right. And yes, hats and wigs are optional, but clothing is required. But we'll be bringing people in at the end of this once we get through our 5 tips, and so you can go find your hat or wig right now.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So definitely, go to so with the networking events, there's some specific tips that I really looked for when I was choosing different networking events. I wanted events where there were more established business owners, because those are the ones that had money, not startups necessarily, although startups sometimes do have budget. They've got some sort of funding, whatever. But a lot of times they've got lots of different places to spend it, and they're not, maybe social media marketing is lower on their list. So I would go to things like chamber events, of course, for sure. That was a big way I grew my business early on, was joining the chamber. And my chamber was great because when I was first starting, I was really bootstrapping it, and I traded social media management for chamber membership. So they were happy to have that trade. And then I also looked at things like BNI groups, which were a little bit more serious about passing leads, but you also have to really be focused in that. And some of those networking events are pretty have rigorous things around passing leads. You have to have so many leads for other businesses each week. And so that's something to consider, if you don't want to do that. BNI meh. Yeah, I know. Some people like them. Sometimes you find some really good ones. I had some really, really nice groups. So it really just depends, you have to test it out, see what works, and just attend regularly. Go to these things. Don't just try it one time. Go to them regularly, although BNI has kind of a guest limit there. So I think that, I used things like Meetup. I used some Googling. I looked for very, very active networking groups that were people I wanted to hang around with anyway.
And you have to think a little bit about what it is that you do. If you like to do Facebook implementing and posting, if you like to do Twitter creation and posting, or do you prefer doing the marketing strategy, you really need to have it figured out in your own mind what it is that's your gift and what you're offering to these businesses. I will tell you that most local businesses they're interested in a strategy, but they're more interested in someone doing the work for them. So finding good clients at these live networking events are really suited for people who love doing the implementing. So if that's where you are in your business and that's what you offer, then these are excellent ways to get new clients.
Right. And so one of the things I specialize in is Facebook ads.
Thank God someone I know does that.
So that was also could be very attractive for companies. They don't want to figure out how to do their whole ad campaign. And Angela is saying that sometimes established businesses often don't want to spend their money on social media either. That's very true. But sometimes maybe figuring out that you've got a package that is an assessment where you give them recommendations, or you tell them what their best, what their best metrics are to start watching, or whatever that could be. So, it could be something shorter term rather than a monthly management package.
Right. For example, you might have an established business who's doing really well on Twitter, but you might notice that they're not using hashtags effectively. You can go in and offer a package to do the hashtag research for them, come up with a list of hashtags that they can use, and see how that increases their reach, and see if that increases their ROI in any way. So there are things that you can do that are very, very, very specific and very contained, just like Facebook ads would be very, very contained, that aren't Facebook ads. So there are other things that can be offered that they might be interested in. So just to remind you, because Vicki's already figured out how to do this, is if you have a question for us, it's /Q, then type out the question, and it'll put it over in our question column, and then we can pull it up and show it to everyone and answer it, and that's really awesome. So let's go on to tip number 2, because I like this tip a lot too, because a lot of times, and I don't know, it sounds like a lot of the people here today have established businesses with social media management or in their VA work. But when you start out, sometimes you need to find clients within what I like to call your passion field. So maybe some nonprofit that you already work with in town or something, and you work with these passion projects to build your resume. And as you're building your resume, people tell other people about what a good job you're doing. So that's that word of mouth that you can do. So that second tip is start with your passion projects or your nonprofits for your resume building. And then when people see your work, they'll recommend you to others. And so that's one way to gain new clients, is to start that way.
Yeah, and that's a huge way that I get a lot of referrals too, is just, kind of working. I'll notice that all of a sudden I'm working with a lot of authors, or I'm working with a lot of one type of business. And it's mostly because I've worked with a certain one. They've referred me out to their friends, their groups. And, just by getting some of that initial ball rolling builds your confidence if you're new, and also gets you into the door with their groups too. So, and it could be a great way for you to specialize. I think that specializing as a social media manager or whatever you do, if you're not necessarily that in that arena, specializing with authors or specializing with dentists or local businesses or specializing with a particular, we have a whole thing around how to niche too. So, but that's a great way to get referrals in that group too. And then you gain your confidence, you get good recommendations that you can post, and that's how you can build your business.
Great. Do you want to answer some of these questions real quick and then go on to tip number 3? All right. So let's go ahead and answer this first one from Vicki. And she says, how do you make proposals less painful to write? Well, if they're painful to write, then you shouldn't be writing them. We don't want you to be in any pain. But the one thing that I have noticed is that if you listen to what the potential client wants, it's way easier to just put that into the proposal instead of coming up with your own novel of what you think they need. So sometimes it's easier just to rewrite what they just told you they wanted and set some pricing or some packages around that. And then as you go through time, they will see that you have other abilities to maybe do bigger marketing packages for them to do. So never a pain. Listen very carefully. Also use templates. And, Andrea and I have the school, and we have lots of templates in the school, and we've developed different ones through time. And those are just a couple of little tips, and hopefully that helps, Vicki.
Yeah, I definitely, what I would have is a template, and what we have, like Phyllis alluded to, is a template, because you never want to spend more time on the proposal than the whole project is really worth. You can, that's the challenging thing. It's maybe like a $350 project. You spend like 2 hours on the proposal.
Or 6 hours, or 6 hours, and worrying about it overnight. Yeah, that's not worth it.
So for sure, definitely just pull, and have like just pricing that you kind of have set. I think, It's good.
Awesome. The next question is, having never used Twitter much, what's the best way to use it to advertise and gain new followers? Okay, so here's the thing about Twitter is that it's really a numbers game. What I have found, especially with my clients, if I use something like Tweepy and I use all of the really cool systems that they have inside of Tweepy to find potential people that would be in your niche or your industry, then you can follow loads of people and then unfollow some people and then follow some more people and start having conversations. I mean, there's a huge thing you can do on Twitter to find clients, but mostly if you're trying to find new followers on Twitter, I would definitely recommend using Tweepy, having a strategy inside there. My favorite thing to do on Tweepy, here's a little tip, is to go and find somebody in your industry and see if they've created a list and then go and follow the people on the list.
Yep, that's one of my favorite strategies too. And, you're talking about advertising to gain new followers. So, definitely if you are looking at spending money on connecting with new people, I mean, it's either going to be time or money. So it's going to be a little bit of a manual process where you go out and you follow a bunch of new people, unfollow them, that kind of thing. Or it's going to be go out and spend advertising dollars and do some targeted people that you're going to try and mimic their followers and kind of target their followers with your ad. You want to make sure you've got a really good value statement there, why they should follow you. And I really haven't ever spent a lot of money on Twitter ads for followers. I've done Twitter ads for sending people to a website, but I think that for me, it's more worthwhile to do that more manually.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, I was going to answer the next question, but actually the next tip kind of answers it a little bit. So nice. So the next tip is to get new clients is give discounts to your existing clients for bringing in a new client. So that's that direct word of mouth recommendation. So if you have a bunch of people that you have and you're doing Twitter for them, you can say, okay, with every new person you bring to me for a Twitter package, I can give you 10% off for the next month's service or whatever you design that would be good for that. So that's, I'll go ahead and type it in there. You don't have to.
Okay, I was going to say I'm typing. So yeah, basically it's a referral. You got it. You're so good. We didn't organize who was typing in the tips. So if you're just joining us, welcome.
And we have had here before.
If you've never been here before, this is the way we roll.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It's Friday afternoon. We're having fun. So I think I've never actually done this tip personally. I have. I think it does. Referral bonuses are great. I think that that can work really well for clients. It gives people an incentive. Sometimes, though, I've had people refer them to me, even for like affiliate products or for product stuff. They've said, oh, I sent my friend there. And I said, oh, we have an affiliate program. They say, I don't care. Your program's so great. I want them to use it anyway. So hopefully you're doing a great job for people and working with the right clients. I think that really helps in getting those referrals. Some clients are crazy and you can just stay away from those people. Work with the clients that you love and they will love you back and they will refer you out.
Right. So to answer Vicky's question is that we don't like the idea of discounting your services, especially in the beginning because people get used to it and then they feel like they're overpaying. But also we always recommend that you get paid in advance and that you have at least a 3-month contract. And there are other things that we suggest social media managers do to make sure that they're working with the best clients and how to interview them so that they aren't working with people that will be more trouble down the road. And we've had those clients, we know what they look like, and we like to hopefully steer you away from that as much as possible. So hopefully that helps, Vicki.
So yeah, and actually I want to kind of address just dropping the rates for that particular client. I actually only gave some free free consulting, very, very, very small amounts in the beginning, just to actually really kind of more friends of mine, and beyond that, I never meet people for coffee. I never meet people for lunch. I never do a pick your brain session, because you have to value your work. And if you don't, the client won't either. So make sure you're sticking to your guns with that. The only time I ever counted my work in the beginning was to a few nonprofits, and it was very, very low discount, actually. So I often just say, this is my rate. If it doesn't work for you, then that's fine too, and just let them go on their way. Because if they're wanting big discounts right away, that's a red flag.
Yes. And actually, it's very interesting. There is a wonderful question here, and then I want to go on to tip number 4, which is really, you guys are lining them up right in line with our tips.
I know, man.
How do they do that?
It's great.
You guys are psychic or something. So here's the thing about this one is, how do you recommend we get our clients approval for upcoming week's posts? We find the approval process is too time consuming. Oh my, I wish you could have been in my shoes a few weeks ago. And this is where you learn if you should work with a client or not. When you line up 2 weeks worth of posts and they find something wrong with every single one of them, you're working with the wrong client. And also, if you find that they are very hands-on when they've hired you to do all the social media marketing, they must have come with your reputation. They know how you can do things. They should honor you for that and give you a little bit more freedom. If you don't get that kind of freedom, then really there are more clients in the world that you can work with, and you should just move on and find someone else to work with. And that comes from personal experience. So there you go. Let's talk about tip number 4. Now, this one is kind of...
We will, I'm just letting people know that we will open it up for more questions at the end, but we're just getting through our tips, and then we'll talk more.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on tip number 4, in case you're wondering where we are. And tip number 4 is something that's almost old school in a lot of ways, because the tip number 4 is something that most of us did to start with to get clients. And that's basically that attraction-based pull marketing through your own social authority, by your own social posting and also your blogging and maybe articles or guest posting for other people, by being findable through search, through keywords that your client is looking for, that type of thing, your SEO on your own blog and your own website, making sure that's in order, that will bring you potential clients too. Many people say, oh, I found you through a Google search using this keyword, or I found you on Facebook because so-and-so mentioned you. So it's that social authority and the SEO tip for that one.
Right. And, you want to be your own first client with your work too. So you want to make sure that you're doing the things that you say you'll do for your clients. And it's always, right, the cobbler's kids or shoes or something about that. But you have to, you definitely, if you're not blogging and you are in social media management, I think you really need to consider it at least just once a month at minimum, putting up a blog that shows people what you know and gives people a taste, and also brings people over to your site too, or you can, it can be a referral thing that you send out to people. People say, oh, how do I know how to measure social media? If they ask a frequently asked question that your potential clients ask you, should be a blog post for you that you refer them to. And then the answer to that question is, you know what, don't do that yourself. Let me do it.
Now, seriously, if I could go back in time, I would have done this process a little more in a little more organized fashion, because all of those questions, just like you said, that whole process of every question that you get that you have an answer for could be a blog post that's wrapped around a keyword that offers a solution. Do you know how many blog posts I would have by now? Oh my gosh, it would be a lot. So we're saying start that now. If you're just getting started, do that now so that you become the social authority with that particular keyword and that particular phrase. And that will bring you, again, through the magic of the internet, clients. All right, so let's go on to tip 5, and then we'll do all the questions.
Actually, I'm just going to give a little shout out to our Social Media Manager School Starter Kit. I just put the link over in the right corner or in the chat window there. And if you guys are social media managers, we've got some great things in that kit that include things like, finding your niche, bringing new clients in the door. There's a whole bunch of free reports in that starter kit that will enhance what we're talking about today. And we are opening up Social Media Manager School in 3 weeks. Oh my gosh.
Seriously.
So we open it.
It's okay. I blocked and removed the crazy person.
We
Trust
open
me,
up.
You do not want that to happen anyway.
We got lots of members here who are with us. Oh, it's always fun.
No, I think
always
that's the
fun.
first one we've had that's been like rude like that, Andrea. And all our blabs that we've done, right? So
I think so.
He must have been attracted.
We had to block one weird guy too. Yeah. So very cool. All right. So let's go on we're on tip number 4.
Nope,
is that right?
Tip number 5.
Tip number 5. You're right. Tip number 5. Last tip, and then we'll
to gain new clients as a social media manager. And it's one of those things that actually can be used in any industry, not just being a social media manager. And that is to use a lead generation process. So you have a lead generation marketing, like a checklist or an ebook or a webinar, and use social advertising. These are things that are pretty well established now. So if you have a checklist on 10 ways to talk to your VA, then that would be a great thing to use as a lead gen page. And then use your social advertising, go to that, get the checklist puts them on an email list, the email list sells your services. So, or the drip, the automation sells your services. So I think that's a pretty standard business funnel right now. And that would be tip number 5.
Right. And, think about repurposing some of this content that you might be creating. If you are blogging, or, if you're presenting to a local networking group and you present this whole, 15-minute presentation about something in, your field, turn that into a blog post, turn it into an ebook, and turn it into a webinar. So you've got 3 different lead generation things right there. And you're getting people connected onto your list, and you're, people don't get sick of this content because they don't see it across all different things. They're like, oh, I didn't realize that was a blog post, but I want it in a downloadable format, so I like it in an ebook. Or people love webinars, or whatever it is. So make sure you're repurposing some of that content so you're not feeling like you're having to always reinvent the wheel there.
Great. So those were the 5 tips, and I'm going to attempt to paste all 5 tips in here at one time. Have we ever tried to do that?
Okay.
We have. Okay, so here we go. All 5 tips for everybody. Here you go. Woohoo.
Awesome. There it is. There's all the tips. Nice. So very cool.
It didn't
my earbuds in.
It didn't pull them all in.
Oh, it didn't? No, I got them. Oh, wait. No.
So look at that. There's a character restriction on a chat.
There is a character restriction.
So there we go. Now I will post the rest of what's missing there then.
Can't be too wordy on the live chat.
Who knew is right. We did not know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to some questions. We got 15 minutes left, so we will pull in some of the questions, and then we'll open up the seat too. So Vicky is asking, do you ever charge hourly rates, or do you stick with monthly? So that's a great question. We have a whole thing around pricing in our course too. But let's just give some of the tips. You have to have an hourly rate for consulting, and that's your highest hourly rate. Then when you are you're doing kind of the pricing around your services, that could be a little bit lower rate because that's your project rate, and you can fit that time in different ways. You can maybe outsource some of that. You can have people on your team do some of that, whatever it might be. So that project rate is going to be a little bit different. That's what you're using to figure out what your, monthly retainer might be or something like that. So but you don't necessarily, the only one that you actually advertise is, like Andrea said, the actual consulting rate. But if you're doing implementing, your hourly rate is part of a formula to figure out what your monthly retainer is for that service. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. So because you don't want to necessarily say, you don't want to tell the client how long it takes you to do something, because you could be really fast. You are going to get faster at it, and that's where you're going to improve your margins. So, but you can. Sometimes you could. I know VAs often work on an hourly basis, and sometimes it does make sense to do that if that's how the client is used to it. But
it doesn't make any sense to you, though, to you as the person receiving the funds, because if you're getting better at something through time, your time is being shortened, but your expertise is growing, and yet you're being paid less money for your growing expertise. So it doesn't make any sense at all for a VA or a social media manager to charge an hourly rate for something, because if they're being honest about how long it takes them to do something through time, they get paid less money for their higher skill. Makes no sense.
Right. I know. So true. So, great. Awesome. So that's a question. And I just want to acknowledge, William here. It is a party every Friday afternoon. It's a party. We're having fun. Thanks for coming. Okay, so Janine is asking about price range for social media management. I am always advocating, and it can depend on where you're at in the world, where you're at in the country, because there's different rates for different areas for sure. But in general, I usually tell people that for consulting, you need to be charging $50 an hour as your consulting rate. That's your one-on-one time starting. That's your one-on-one time with people. You've got a lot of overhead that goes into what you do. You also want to make sure that you're taking into account, if you are traveling to a consulting engagement, then you need to, kind of figure out how that time is accounted for. So that's a starting rate. And I think that you definitely want to make sure that you've got the expertise to command that rate, by doing some of the work, maybe, getting some sort of official training so that, you can point to that and say, yes, I've been through these courses and things like that, so that the client feels confident in your ability and you feel confident in your ability too, to be able to help them.
Right. Good question. Good point. And it's always important to honor your expertise.
Yeah. So true. So we've got about 10 minutes left. We'll open it up for if anyone wants to jump in the hot seat, if you've got clothing on. And you had, like we say, hats and wigs encouraged, but you don't have to if you don't want to. If you want to jump in, tell us some of the ways you get new clients, ask us a question about getting new clients. Definitely we love to share how we've kind of grown. I think one of the things that was always surprising to me was just the fact that I wrote an ebook about social media when I first started, helped me get credibility both for my clients, and it would be something that I could possibly even give away to them. It was a lead generating magnet, but it also helped lead to the book deal where Phyllis and I co-authored Facebook Marketing All-in-One for Dummies. And actually, here it is right here. Wait, hold on. And I think this is even our edition too. There we go. I've got it. Yeah, you've got it there. You've got two.
Yeah, I'm 2 times a dummy.
You're dumber.
I'm much dumber, trust me. And that's an inside joke for all you dummies authors out there.
Exactly. So, good. Feel free to jump in if you have a question or put a question on the side. But I think that, think about the ways that you start working with consultants as well. That's another thing to think about is what has led you to purchase from someone else, and maybe kind of retrace that. Phyllis is
I don't have
saying,
the t-shirt follow the funnel, model the process. Yep. Yes, exactly. If you just watched your own behavior, do you know how much you would learn about marketing? It's just a fascinating thing. True. Why are you clicking on that? Why are you sharing that? What makes you cry when you see that goat video?
That goat video? No, I don't cry during the goat videos. I just cry during all the soldiers coming home and all that stuff. That always makes me cry. But so definitely just kind of think about what has drawn you to other people and had you work with them. Maybe you felt like they had the expertise or they gave you some tips initially. That's often the way I start working with someone. They've given me some really valuable information to start with. And I think, they really know their stuff. I really want to work with them because they are going to be able to help me further along the journey. Another reason I've worked with people sight unseen without even talking to them, I spend a ton of money with them. All of a sudden, it's a referral. Yeah. So build up your credibility with other people in a certain niche, and they will refer you out. And also, think about participating in certain areas. So say you want to target, like the person who was working with VAs or was the VA to social media managers, she could start commenting and posting on those targeted people and participating in their network and becoming more familiar to them without selling, just being helpful, participating, becomes known with them. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, what do you do? And, oh, I need graphics, or I need, those services you offer. So think about just spending some time connecting, using social media to connect.
Yeah, so those 5 tips are really important to look at, not only from your perspective, but also the person looking for you from their perspective. And so if you have an expertise in a particular area, don't just hold, a lot of people, they know that they're an expert in something, but nobody knows because they're not posting about it. They're not blogging about it. They're not answering questions live about it. They're not blabbing about it. They're not giving that information out. So nobody knows that they have some sort of social authority in this particular area. So, a lot of times when you work at home, and this is true for a lot of people, when you work at home, then you don't reach out that way too much anymore. You're a little bit isolated when you're working at home. So that's why that tip number 1 was all about going live and talking to people and shaking hands and doing that bit.
Right.
And so all of those tips that we brought out today are really important to look at from those 2 perspectives, from yours and from theirs.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought of another tip while we were talking,
a bonus
and then
tip.
I just totally lost it.
No, it got caught up in your hairdo.
It's gone. It is. It didn't come out. It just hold on.
In there. You need to knock it out. I was trying to get Andrea to put her cat in the hairdo before we came on.
I know it's like a
nest.
I could have things live in there. So.
And those of you listening to the audio portion of this, you're just going to have to go try and find the video portion on Andrea's blog so that you can see exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. So Angela's asking, what do we use for mics? I have a very inexpensive mic that I like quite a bit. It's the Audio Technica.
Me too.
Audio-Technica, and I don't know what the model is, but it was only like $60. And then I got this nice little arm that wasn't too expensive, and I just really like the sound. Except it sounds like Janine has lost her sound. Hopefully, other people can hear. I don't know.
So I've got an Audio-Technica too. It's a 2020. I've had it for years, and I bought this wonderful arm so I pretend like I'm on the radio. And it works great because it gets it up off my desk. It's wonderful. And then I can just push it away out of the way when I'm done and it's out of my face. I love it.
Yeah. Let's see if there was anything else I was going to talk about. Getting new clients. Lots to talk about with that. I mean,
maybe we can tell people what we're doing next week.
Let's talk about, mine is the 2100 is awesome. That's what William has told me. I'm sure you're right, William, because I think that sounds right. Awesome. So next week, what are we talking about next week?
I don't think we selected what we're doing next week, Andrea. We'll take a vote. What would you guys like for us to talk about next week with hats and wigs?
So we could talk about, I know there was a lot of questions about pricing. So should we talk about pricing your services?
Let's do pricing.
Let's do pricing your services. Yeah. So let's talk about that. The 3 models we have for pricing your services. We'll kind of get into that. And I'm just going to, if you're just joining us, I'm going to put the social media manager starter kit link in our chat again, just in case you want some extra references there. We'll be having some webinars coming up that are going to be awesome. And and
that's it.
So any other thoughts on what other people are using for growing their business? What's working for you? Love to hear. Your favorite lead generator for getting new clients.
Oh gosh, we have new people joining right now. You're going to have to go back and watch and slide through the chat to see all the tips. We had 5 tips on how to get new clients, and with Hats and Wigs. And as always, we've enjoyed everybody's company, and it's really, really, really nice to see a lot of our members of Social Media Manager School here in the Blab today. It's so nice to see your happy faces. I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think if we don't have any other questions, we'll just wrap it up and
see you guys next Friday, same time, same place, different hats, different wigs.
Yeah. Awesome. Bye, guys.
Bye.